So it's 100 days of the Trump presidency. How are you feeling, okay? You're all right.
Whew.
Yeah. And the only good thing about, in my mind, Eli, you may disagree, the good thing about this is that time moves so slowly that we will never age. It'll be all right. What is the relationship now between the press and the President of the United States? Is it any different than with any other president?
I mean, I would say that there is an extraordinary level of extremely intimate access to the president. I mean, I'm stunned by how many reporters he's talked to one-on-one, both informal and informal settings. The difficulty with this is that nothing he says is of any use. I mean, if the president speaks and the things that he says don't make any sense, what are we supposed to do with that? I mean, it was very, very difficult to get access to the Obama White House, but if you got to sit down with President Obama, you would make news on something of substance. I read that AP transcript, and
everybody know what this? There was a long AP interview that was obscure in meaning at times. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, there were, since when do you have a sit-down interview in the Oval Office? And in the transcript, there are repeated instances of the word unintelligible. And like, not in an ironic way. I mean, this is the AP, so they're playing it completely straight. So I think that we're at a very interesting juncture in our role as the media in trying to figure out how to contend with a kind of all-access presidency.
I mean, my sense is that he talks to Maggie Haberman at the Times and the equivalents at the Washington Post more than most members of his family.
Well, you think about the day when the health care bill died the first time before it was resurrected. When they had decided to pull that health care bill, did he call Paul Ryan? Did he call the House conference? Did he tell all these members he'd been leaning on for days and days, look, we're not going to have this vote? No, he called Bob Costa from the Washington Post. And then he called Maggie Haberman from the New York Times. So when Donald Trump had a story he wanted to get out, who did he turn to? Us and the Times right away. We were the people he turned to first.
What's that all about?
Trump sees the media as the most important barometer of him him succeeding as president. He sees us as the mirror of himself. He doesn't look to things beyond us. He looks to polls in some degree. He doesn't look to results. He looks to the media and how they're covering him as the daily barometer of whether he's succeeding or failing as president.
So he doesn't really hate you.
No, he needs us. No president has ever needed us to prop himself up or to reaffirm himself in the way that Trump does.
Most presidents come in with a fairly fixed set of ideas of things they want to accomplish, and everything else are sort of means to that end, so that they use the media when they need to get these ideas enacted, to get their agenda in place, because they have in their own mind what their ideological sort of menu is. Donald Trump only has one agenda item. Everything else is just sort of festooning the one agenda he has, and it's a 3-word agenda: to get applause. If you go back and look at his history and his interactions, his and John Barron, the fictional character who used to call tabloid reporters in New York, really, he made up a character that was his own publicist that would call and play stories about Donald Trump. Donald Trump was with this hot model today. You might want to follow that up. Donald Trump should be in page 6 because these are his exploits in real estate. To get applause is his only real agenda. So he doesn't hate the press. He's sort of desperate for the affection of the Washington Post, but especially the New York Times.
Eli, do you think that's true?
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, because his relationship, which is now on the outs with Steve Bannon, is deeply ideological, and it's deeply disruptive to what is a kind of elite right-left consensus on things like free trade and I think free immigration. And that represents a real challenge in a significant way. We have a moment where I think those of us in the cosmopolitan elite, many consider themselves part of a resistance, and that Trump is a representative of kind of American fascism. But I would submit that this kind of lack of any core, or to put it another way, fascists are much better at consolidating power and implementing an agenda than Donald Trump has been in the last 100 days. And this in some ways should force us to rethink perhaps this mode of resistance politically, and to look at this more like an opposition, because there's plenty to oppose with Donald Trump. At least so far, though, I don't think he is that kind of extinction level threat that we were all worried about back in November.